back to the Body Mass YouTube page. I'm Virginia, one of the owners at Body Mass, and for those of you guys who have been following along a little bit on my bikini prep journey, I've kind of been tracking my progress over really the last year of switching from the figure division into the bikini division, competing last year for the first time in bikini, realizing that I really enjoyed the division and that I wanted to focus a little bit more on trying to be even better this year. So at the start of the year, for those of you who've been following, I hired Paul Ravila from Team Pro Physiques, and he has been my coach for bikini prep so far. So far, working with Paul has been great. He communicates well, he responds, he cares about his athletes' health and well-being, and I really like his approach to not just the sport, but also how he handles his athletes and his kind of mentality around the sport, but also their health and them becoming better athletes. So earlier on, you kind of heard a little bit about why I switched from figure to bikini, kind of what my workouts look like and how things have been going so far. So here we are, it's almost 5 months into the new year, and a lot of people are asking me, okay, what show are you doing? When are you planning to compete? So as you guys might have been able to tell by the title of this, I am actually not going to be competing in 2021. I knew in order to get better in the bikini division, I needed to change my shape a little bit. I needed to take a little bit of a longer off season. The original plan was to compete in North Americans, which is in early September of this year. So that would have given me a full year in between shows to kind of build muscle and then cut and prep again. But the reason why I'm not doing North Americans this year, and if you guys have seen on my Instagram, is that I am pregnant. So obviously bikini shows are taking a little bit of a back burner for right now, which is totally okay. I'm really excited. I'm kind of excited to track along my progress of pregnancy, kind of how I feel, what I've been doing during pregnancy, but also my plan to get back on stage postpartum. So that is absolutely one of my goals. Paul recently posted a picture on his Instagram of one of his athletes getting on stage following the birth of, I think it was her third child. So definitely know I'm in good hands, and I'll continue to follow along. But yeah, so right now tomorrow I'll be 14 weeks pregnant. So I'm kind of finishing up the first trimester now. This is my first time being pregnant, so it's a little bit of an adaptation and a journey for sure. You always hear about people who are pregnant, having cravings or not feeling good, especially in the first trimester. And it's been really interesting. So here's kind of what I've noticed so far for me is that I'm very routine and diligent with how I eat. I eat a lot of similar things, mostly high protein, lean protein, high veggie throughout the day. Obviously higher carb, especially now as I'm trying to build muscle. And I usually stick to things like, for my carbs, like rice and Ezekiel bread, potatoes. That's kind of my main go-to. For protein, lots of chicken, ground turkey, sometimes steak or salmon or shrimp, eggs, egg whites, and then obviously lots of green veggies. Since pregnancy, in my head, I was always like, oh yeah, maybe these people weren't as routine, they weren't as disciplined, and so, once they're pregnant, the cravings hit them a little bit harder. It's so interesting. So I wouldn't say that I have cravings per se, but I have no desire to eat the way that I normally do. So like something that I would normally, let's say like a meal that's broccoli and rice and chicken, like a totally normal meal that I would have before, is just like I can't really stomach it. It doesn't make me nauseous and want to throw up, and I haven't thrown up yet, so I feel very fortunate. But it's just like it kind of grosses me out a little bit, or it's just kind of like, if I'm eating it. So it's been really interesting because I've been forced, or I'm not eating kind of what my norm is and kind of like the routine way I've eaten for, I don't know, almost a dozen years now. So that's definitely one big change. Some things, I guess you could say, if I'm like craving things, it's definitely more like carby things. I think that's so cliche to say, but more carby things that I'm not really used to or I don't eat a lot. So I rarely eat cereal, but I've kind of like wanted cereal to munch on. So I'll bring that to work for the day. I, every morning for the past probably 2 months, have had waffles, either frozen waffles, like the Kodiak cake ones that look kind of like Eggos, like protein waffles, or I'll make my own, and I'll use like the Kodiak cake mix. But like I've wanted waffles every morning. Like I'm so used to having eggs for breakfast, and eggs are just kind of like meh. So I'm trying to get a little bit more protein in by eating like the protein waffles, but I'm definitely not hitting my normal protein quantities. The thing I will say that I think I'm craving if there's like a certain type of food is Mexican food, in particular Taco Bell. So I got in the car, this was a couple weeks ago, got in the car and drove to Taco Bell because I was craving a Crunchwrap Supreme. And Chris and I have known each other for 9 years, and Chris is like, that's the first time I've ever seen you get in the car and purposefully drive to get fast food. Like I'll get fast food on road trips, like I'm not beyond getting fast food, especially Taco Bell, but I've never gotten in the car and purposefully drove to go get Taco Bell. So that's very, just like different. I figured out how to kind of make my own Crunchwrap Supremes at home. So I've been eating lots of Crunchwrap Supremes. If you guys are interested, I can share kind of some of these recipes. They're by no means like healthy, prep friendly stuff, but just stuff I've been craving. The other thing I've really been craving is more Asian food. So pho, I've been craving that a lot. It's funny because I posted a thing on Instagram not that long ago. And I was like, does anyone ever just crave pho? And I've had a few people, now that they know that I'm pregnant, say to me, oh, when I saw you post that, I like kind of got a little hint that maybe you're pregnant. So I've been craving pho, so like Vietnamese soup, ramen. So Chris's conclusion is I'm kind of craving like saltier things. So I think he's probably right. Ice cream, you guys know that's my biggest weakness in life in general. So even when I'm not pregnant, if I'm not in prep, I eat ice cream probably 5 days a week, like a little bowl almost every night. So I've still been eating my ice cream. That's not gone anywhere. But yeah, it's just a little harder to get in protein. I've been eating more fruit than veggies, where typically I'm very veggie heavy. Now I've been eating a lot more fruit than I typically do. So I wouldn't say particularly unhealthy, but definitely different from what I'm used to. So there's two other things that I've found very interesting in this kind of first trimester of pregnancy. The first is I never understood how people didn't like coffee, or like I always thought I'd have the hardest time being pregnant because I wouldn't be able to drink the normal coffee quantities that I'm used to. So like normally I drink 4 to 5 cups of coffee a day. Like wake up first thing in the morning, I go over to the coffee pot and like get it brewing, and before I can even do anything, I need a cup of coffee. And now it's just kind of it just like doesn't have an appeal to me. And when my sister was pregnant, the 2 times she ever like actually physically got sick were both at coffee shops. She was at a Starbucks and an Al Pan once, and the smell of coffee made her sick. And so it's interesting because I've not been to that level yet, but it's kind of like the smell of coffee, something I normally love, kind of turns me off. Most days in the middle of the day, I'll have like a small mocha, which with ice cream is one of my biggest weaknesses. But I'll have like a small mocha or a small chai tea latte. But like regular coffees it has no appeal to me right now. So that's been very interesting. The other thing that I found that was interesting is like, in normal life, you might, have a busy day and you're hungry and you're like, okay, well, I've got one more client or I have one more meeting. After that, I'll eat lunch, but maybe drink some water, hunger pangs subside a little bit, and then you're like good to go. It's like, right now, it's like if I get hungry, and it's like this 0 to 60, if I get hungry and if I don't like eat right in that second, it's like I'm gonna die. I know that sounds so dramatic, but it's like the weirdest thing, and it's almost on this cusp of like, I'm like feeling so nauseous that if I eat something right now, it'll like solve it and I'll feel so much better. Or if I eat something, I'll get sick and I'll throw up. So it's kind of like this weird conundrum, because you're like, well, I want to eat something because I think it'll make me feel better, but also there's this like off chance that it might actually make me sick. So that's been very interesting, is like, when that hunger hits, it like hits hard, and it's like you need to satiate it right then and there, because otherwise you'll have a problem. So I've been carrying like way more snacks. Like I said, cereal I've been eating a lot of, or honestly just like bread. I'll carry like I do the Ezekiel English muffins. I'll like bring those with me, and I'll pop one in the microwave and then eat that if I need something really quick. So that's been interesting. Overall, in terms of like being nauseous, I've been, I think, pretty fortunate from what I've heard from other people. I haven't gotten sick, and I more so just feel like I just don't feel good. So like it's not that I'm nauseous per se or sick per se. It's just like I don't feel good. It's like kind of a constant state of seasickness where it's like a little queasy. So that's been interesting, but it's slowly getting better. The other thing that most people kind of fight during especially their first trimester is fatigue. So I've been pretty fortunate in that normally when I get tired, or like during pregnancy when I get tired, it's later in the day. So it's like at 6 o'clock I start to get really tired, which is tough when I have days that I'm training till like 7 or 8 p.m. But it's not unbearable. It's not like in the middle of the day I feel like I can't like function. So I'm able to go through my normal days pretty much. In the mornings, I still feel pretty energized. Like when I have to wake up for, when I have like training sessions or groups at 6 a.m., I'm still feel pretty good and pretty energized. But it's definitely like the end of the day. It's like my body's telling me like, okay, it's the end of the day, time to go. Working out during pregnancy. So this is, of course, a question that a lot of people have when it comes to pregnancy. And obviously every doctor has a little bit of their own advice. My doctor's advice is just kind of keep doing the things that you're doing and listen to your body, which, is very helpful for me. I know some people who've said, their doctor said don't lift more than 40 pounds, which, when you go from like deadlifting 200 pounds to don't lift more than 40 pounds, it's a little bit of an adjustment and a change. But my doctor kind of said, keep doing what you're doing and listen to your body. So I've still been lifting. Normally it was diligently with my program with Paul, 5 days a week. Now I'd say it's like 4 to 5 days a week. But I'm not pushing the workouts as hard. I'll do kind of one body part, and I'll do probably 4 to 5 different exercises, maybe 3 to 5 sets per exercise. So I'm in and out of the gym in less than an hour, but I still am trying to keep my strength up, trying to maximize as much muscle, either maintenance or who knows, maybe a little growth during this time as possible. And then other than that, just trying to be active. So I'm usually pretty active anyways, but each day just making sure that I close all the rings on my Apple Watch, and that I'm just like going out for a lot of walks and moving a lot. And, I usually get between like 15,000 to 20,000 steps a day. So making sure I'm maintaining that. So overall, workouts haven't been tough. Probably the weirdest thing has been because like obviously ligaments in your pelvic area are like stretching and moving and changing. There's certain movements, there's like a weird, it almost like feels like stretching, but it's hard to say that it's stretching because I find it when I'm like getting a lot of flexion of my hips. So split squats or lunges, like at the bottom part of a lunge, I kind of feel it. In like dead bugs, if I were to demo dead bugs, I don't do them for my own workouts right now, but if I was to demo dead bugs, I kind of feel it a little bit. So I just kind of have stayed away from those types of movements.
Took a bite, and now I'm filled up. I don't know where you are tonight. Cause you're right, I've been starving and now I don't know what to do tonight. But I've been feeling like you're pretty easy to like. When your body is closer to mine, you got me feeling like there's no one other than you who can make me lose my mind. You start me up like no one has ever could. You fuel my fire. What are the odds we end up loving this? Spending every minute together. I found it quite hard.
Prior to finding out I was pregnant, I was doing my weekly check-ins on Thursdays with Paul. So part of my weekly check-ins is always taking a waist circumference measurement, my body weight, and then sending progress pictures. And it's kind of ironic because my kind of like weeks of pregnancy align that they're on Thursdays still. So it's like each Thursday from the beginning of the year, even before I was pregnant, I kind of have those check-ins. So I've kind of kept up with Thursday progress pictures and progress check-ins. As of now, I've still been wearing my like bikini bottoms for my progress pictures, which is it's just kind of fun to see as my body changes. Obviously, I won't be able to wear them the entire time because they're expensive and I'm not trying to stretch those out. But it's each Thursday I'll weigh myself and I'll do my waist circumference. And so I've just kind of been keeping track of that. It's just kind of interesting to see how it changes week over week. And I'll do pictures. So I'm almost 14 weeks now and I've gained, I'll weigh myself tomorrow when I'm at 14 weeks, but up until 13 weeks, I think I'd gained about 6 pounds since finding out I was pregnant. So, you know, some people lose weight in their first trimester, some people maintain, some people gain weight. So I've gained a little bit of weight, but I was about 140 before finding out I was pregnant. I'm about 146 right now. So not anything drastic. I want to be healthy during my pregnancy. Weight gain is part of that, but I also don't want to be kind of like have it be a free-for-all where it's like I'm just eating junk all the time and I'm not exercising and taking care of myself and the baby. So for me, it's important to still make sure that I'm like eating healthy and moving and being active and taking good care of myself and taking good care of my baby, but not being preoccupied with, yes, I'm gonna gain weight. Yes, I'm gonna get bigger. Yes, my clothes are not gonna fit, but that's all part of the process. So far I've gained about 6 pounds. So averaging, I guess, about a half a pound a week, not so linear like that. Obviously it'll be more as the pregnancy goes on. My waist circumference measurements, I think I've put on about 1 inch in my waist. And of course, a big part of that is like my diet has changed a lot. And obviously like Steph is growing and everything is expanding in the middle. So it's been interesting, but I'm really excited to keep chronicling that every Thursday along the way and kind of see as the baby starts to grow and as I start to grow kind of what things look like. It seems like it's very common for people, and granted, I haven't told a ton of people that I'm pregnant up until this point. Obviously, I'm filming this before I've told the rest of the world that I'm pregnant. So I haven't told a ton of people up until this point, but I think that what I've heard is a lot of people are met with reactions from others that's like either saying you're doing something right or wrong or trying to like convince you how you should be or how you shouldn't be. And I've felt very fortunate in that, you know, everybody that I've told has been excited and supportive. Plus I'm one of those people that if like you kind of give me unsolicited advice, I just like, it kind of goes in one ear and out the other and I'm like on with my day. So it doesn't really affect me. I mean, you can tell me I'm doing terribly and I'm like, okay, you're not me. You don't know what I'm going through. So who are you to tell me what I'm doing is wrong? You know, unless of course it's my doctor, I'll listen to my doctor. But, a common question that people have asked is, was this on purpose? Like literally people have been like, was that intentional? Was that on purpose? Were you guys trying? So this is kind of an interesting story that I want to share. So obviously everybody knows that I have competed for a long time. So this year, so in August, I'm turning 35 and there's kind of these like 2 big milestones for me and what's important in my life that happen when you're 35. So the first is in competing, you are in the Masters division. So that's enough to make you feel old enough. But once you turn 35, you're in the Masters division. So a big reason why I was planning to do North Americans is that's the first national show after I turn 35. So I can compete in Open and I can compete in the Masters division. So to put it in perspective, last year at North Americans, I think I placed 14th. The girl who placed 1 place behind me, 15th place, when she competed in the Masters division, she won her height class and she went on to earn her pro card. So obviously there's less competition in the Masters division. Plus, I feel like you're competing with people who have more similar physiques. Your physique changes and matures and ages as you do, as do like your face and your skin and all these other things. So it's kind of like you're on a more level playing field with people your age. So that's a big thing. That's kind of a pro and a con. You know, mentally it's a con because you think, oh wow, okay, I've reached the master's division. But it's a pro because, you know, there's probably more opportunities to earn your pro card in the master's division. So that's one thing. The other thing is this whole term of like geriatric pregnancy. So it's like once you become pregnant and I think it's, so my pregnancy is considered geriatric, I think, because my baby is due in the fall and I turned 35 in August. So if the mother is 35 by the time the baby's due date is, then it's geriatric. So it was just, I know tons of people, I train a bunch of people, I have a bunch of friends who after the age of 35 had gotten pregnant, had totally healthy pregnancies and babies. But there's just this like mental piece to the term geriatric and being like, oh, I'm kind of feeling like I'm old. If I do want to have kids, I should try now. So to make a long story short, we weren't trying in the way that a lot of people, especially those who struggle with fertility, do, where it's like tracking your ovulation and making sure like everything's aligned and you're doing all the things that you need to do to try your hardest to get pregnant. But obviously we weren't preventing it. After my last competition, I stopped taking birth control, like with the intention of, okay, I might get pregnant. But in my head, mentally, I felt like Chris and I would have a hard time only because he takes prescription testosterone. Like he has low levels of testosterone. When he started taking that 8 years ago, one of the side effects was it might be hard to have kids. And we had just started dating then. And so we're like, whatever, we'll deal with that down the line. Like that's not a big issue at the time. And then with my history of competing, I've, you know, done 15 shows before and my body fat regularly has been down in the single digits. So, you know, I just thought in my head between Chris and his testosterone and me and like my fluctuations of body fat, but having low body fat for extended periods of time, that it would just be hard for us. And especially the older I get, I hear so many friends and celebrities and people that you just know who have fertility struggles. So I kind of prepared and braced myself for the fact that maybe we won't get pregnant. And I've always been okay with the fact that we might not have kids, and I'm totally okay with that. Some people, that's very important for them to have kids to kind of bring kind of I don't know, like a sense of completion maybe to their life. And I've never really felt that way. But there was a part of me that was like, okay, if I get to be 40 or 50 years old and I don't try, then I think I'll always regret that. And I don't want to have that regret. I think if I were to look back and say, you know, we tried and we couldn't get pregnant and it's just like, you know, it wasn't the way it was meant to be, I'd be okay with that answer. But I think if we didn't try or semi-try, then I would have regretted that. So I'm very excited. Mentally, I don't think that I'm like ready in this place where I'm like, okay, right now, let's go. But I don't think I ever will be. So when that like kind of geriatric time came knocking, I was like, okay, well, let's see. It's kind of now or never. But that's why, like, I still started working with Paul. I still, like, in my mind had the game plan that I was going to compete this year because I didn't want to stop the rest of my life to just focus on this. Like, for me, that wouldn't be good for my mental health. Like, I still want to do the things that are important to me, like prepping and competing and training in a way to step on stage. It's just now that's going to be delayed a little bit. So one of the biggest reasons why I like working with Paul is earlier on in the year, like at the start of January, I kind of had these two very conflicting goals of, you know, being in the master's division, hitting 35 and competing and earning my pro card, and then being 35 and being geriatric and like thinking, okay, well, maybe I might want to try to get pregnant. And I had emailed Paul when we were very first communicating before I had worked with him. And I said something along the lines of like explaining that, you know, I want to prep, but I might get pregnant. And obviously that would like deter the prep. And I paid up front for an entire year of working with him, you know, because I didn't want to stop that progress. But then there was like kind of this glitch or hiccup in the middle of it. And when I emailed him, he replied back like, let's set, like, here's my calendar, let's set up a time so we can chat on the phone. And I was at the DC gym And I came back to our Arlington gym and Chris was there and I was like, hey, can we just take the dogs on a walk? And like, I'm not an emotional person. I don't cry very often. But we like started walking and I was like really quiet and Chris goes, what's wrong? And I just started crying because I was like, it's the first time in my life that I felt that, you know, because I'm a woman and I want to have a family, or I don't want to, you know, totally write off the fact that maybe I want a family, I can't pursue my goal. So I felt like being a woman and the desire to have a family, maybe have a family, possibly have a family, kept me from achieving other goals in my life. And I'm sure, I know there's many, many women who feel this, and I know I'm not alone in it, but it was kind of a tough pill to swallow, and I was very, it was just like the first time in my life that I really felt limited. Like you know, if somebody tells me I can't do something, I'll show them how I can. And so it was really a hard time. And I told Chris, I was like, you know, and Paul said, let's talk. And, you know, in my head, I'm like conjuring up this worst case scenario. He's like, you know, I can't take you on as a client. Like, you can't do prep if you're going to try to have a baby. Like, it's just too much. You can't do it all. So I've kind of like built up this scenario in my head of how I've already failed and I'm not able to reach my one goal of competing because a potential possible goal that I'm not even working towards, this was in January, way before I was pregnant, like that I might not even ever accomplish. So I have to give up one goal for the possibility of another goal. And it was really stressful for me. And those of you guys who know Chris, he's like super laid back and easygoing. And he goes, you know, just talk to Paul, see what he has to say, and then we'll go from there. And I got on the phone with Paul, and I'm sure, like in my mind, I sounded like I was about to break down any second. Maybe he didn't hear that in my voice, but I felt like that. And he's so reassuring and positive, and you know, told me that like my health is most important, and that he's trained plenty of people that are pregnant or postpartum or, you know, thinking about becoming pregnant. And it was just very, very reassuring. And he's like, you know, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, when that timing comes. If it does, great. If it doesn't, don't worry about it, but we'll worry about it when we need to worry about it. And that's really, you know, I obviously didn't say that in my first video because A, I wasn't pregnant then, and B, like, you know, I didn't know what was going to happen. But that's the main reason why I really decided that I want to work with Paul, and I really put my trust in him, is his reassurance that, you know, you can be a woman and you can still compete and you can still reach your goals, and you can balance both. And he told me, you know, he has 2 young kids, and he's like, you know, being a dad is like the greatest thing, and I really like love being a dad, so I'm totally supportive of what you want to do. And it was really reassuring at a time, you know, if Chris were a bodybuilder and he wanted to start a family and he wanted to have kids, he could be stepping on stage the day I'm in the hospital giving birth, and it doesn't affect him and his physique and what he looks like and what his goals are. So to hear that from Paul was really reassuring and confidence boosting. So yeah, as of right now, I'm still working with Paul, but it's kind of like on a little bit of a hiatus. We'll really like pick up with stuff, obviously, postpartum. But I'm excited to kind of bring everybody along on this journey. It's totally done a 180 from the start of prep and what we're doing. But I do want to share some things like workouts I've been doing and things I've been eating. If there's anything else that you guys want to hear about, I'd love to hear it. So, you know, this is my first time having a kid, being pregnant. I train a lot of pregnant women, postpartum women, women going through IVF treatment. I'm certified as a postpartum personal trainer, so I'm familiar with it, but it's definitely different when you're experiencing it yourself, as I've found out so far. Obviously, things will be a little bit different in the second trimester, but yeah, it's exciting. I'm like really, really looking forward to it. I'm definitely a little bit nervous about the whole giving birth part, but you know, cross that bridge when we get to it. But yeah, so that's kind of my game plan right now. I'm due towards the end of the year, so I won't be stepping on stage anytime in 2021. Obviously, depending on how everything goes and what my recovery is like, my, you know, tentative game plan would be maybe in the middle of 2022 to step on stage. But I don't think that's anything that I feel like I need to rush. Right now, my goal is to just try to be as healthy as possible, take good care of myself and my growing baby, and just kind of feel good about it all. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys have questions or if there's other things that you want to see in upcoming videos, go ahead and leave that in the comments down below, because yeah, this is a totally different journey. I'm excited to share it. But yeah, about 14 weeks now, so got a little ways to go, but I have a feeling, I mean, the fact that I'm already close to my second trimester is insane, so I have a feeling this will go really fast. But yeah, I'll see you guys soon in the next video. But until then, leave comments, hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe so you guys can kind of follow along on this journey. Bye.